Shamel Olwago, and you can call me Shem. Today I'll be reading from my book, The Pillars of Governed Mind, the Architecture of Civilization, and How It Shapes Your Experience. I'll be starting today at the before we begin. So, as I read through the book, I'll also be explaining some stuff in my own words, and this is a part where I'll be doing this for any of those who are more listeners than readers. So without further ado, I'll begin. Before we begin, how this was shown to me. This book was shown to me through an out-of-body experience. Not all at once, but in presentations that I was moved through. On waking, I came to realize that this information presented to me was already within. Like a group of old friends showing me pictures and from like the holiday that I'd forgotten about. There were situations and interactions and internal shifts that unfolded in real time, each one carrying a piece of the structure, a piece of the pattern, and a piece of what would later become clear as the governed mind. And it was not until I began reading in my dream journal that I started remembering. Each word that I wrote reopened something. Each sentence brought back another layer of what had already been shown. It was a download. This is why this book moves the way it does. It's a recollection of something lived, remembered, and recognized. Ultimately, I'm just sharing my experience that I had with you. This is where instances clear, like, sometimes you'll have a situation where you're writing something down and it's only until you come and reread it, you're like, oh, it just landed. Okay, now I get it. It's that. So how each pillar supported the other, how the patterns repeated across different areas of my life, and also how it appeared separate on the surface. And there were also moments where I was shown myself moving through the situation, responding to it, and then at times observing from a distance, like a bird's eye view, something that I would do in remote viewing, like omnipresence. This book is not here to tell you what to believe. It's here so that as you read, something within you begins to recognize the same patterns that I did, or similar. You take what resonates. Not because you're being introduced to them for the first time, but because you recognized how your energy has contributed to it as well. As you move through these pages with me, allow yourself to remain open, not in belief, but in just awareness. And through awareness, clarity. Most importantly, remain connected to your own inner knowing. Was single-handedly the biggest takeaway from this whole experience for me. It was the remembrance of how important our inner knowing is, going within, our inner sovereignty, and our God consciousness and authority that we have in our lives and in our vessels right here and right now in this wonderful experience we call life. Their message to me: you're not here to be instructed, you're here to remember. Introduction: The Governed Mind, The architecture of experience. There is a way in which we have been living that feels normal, familiar, and unquestioned. If you're anything like me, you've been questioning this from day dot. Things didn't feel right. Things didn't feel like they fit. Things felt like they were either antiquated or just unnecessary. As a kid, I remember growing up and thinking, why are you doing that? Why is that a thing? It's been repeated, reinforced, and experienced for long enough to become invisible. Even adopted as the absolute truth or an absolute truth. What we call civilization, structure, or the way things are, isn't random though. It is built, and more importantly, it's fueled by us and through us. The ineffable experience. Before I had the language for any of this, I was shown something directly through an out-of-body experience, as you know. So I went to bed, closed my eyes, and immediately opened my soul eyes to a council of humanoid-looking beings. There was something unmistakable about them, like a quiet certainty. They carried a clear and unwavering knowing of what they were without needing to express or prove it. Honestly, it felt refreshing. I was like, whatever you lot are taking, I'll take some of that. And within that knowing, there was a fullness, a natural strength, a sense of complete health with a soft, steady glow. Nothing about them reached outwards for recognition. They simply were enough. Not above or below me, not something to worship or to fear, no hierarchy, just pure sovereignty. They sat as a collective, strong figures dressed in gold, each one seated on what I would only call like a throne, but without performance, without this feeling of, I don't know, hierarchy, like I'm saying. Like none of them felt like they were trying to be royal or trying to be uppity in any way. There was none of that. That all fell away. And I guess that's because I was operating in neutrality. I was in my soul self. I was just in my God consciousness. You know, I was, when I'm out of body, that's how I operate. So I can get the most undistorted version of what's going on. And this is why this hit so hard when it happened. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was refreshing, to say the least, to just be in the presence of beings that moved like that. So they wore these suits. They looked like armour, but they were that soft armour, like a leather samurai armour would just move. So if they had to move, they could with ease. But it still looked structured and it still looked regal and it still, real talk, it looked dope. It was beautiful. Each and every one of them just were beaming. And what stood out the most wasn't their appearance, though, even though it was noticeable. It was how they looked at me. There was no separation, like there was no sense that I was less than them in any way. It was clear without needing to be said.